I am Hollie Bennett, and I'm here to welcome you to the Gaming for Everyone panel, because it is. It's supposed to be for everyone. Now, I am absolutely thrilled to be here, but I think I'm more nervous presenting this than I was during the pre-show, because the talent we have on the panel is so unreal, I actually have the worst case of imposter syndrome I've ever had in my career, and I'm hoping nobody at PlayStation figures out I probably shouldn't be here anyway. Right, first of all, please welcome Simon Harris, who's the executive producer of Supermassive Games. They have covered everything PlayStation has to offer, from the console to PlayLink and to VR. Right, we're on a roll, that's 1 of 5. Next up, we have the wonderful Liz Wilde. Now, she is director of new entertainment at the London studio. Now, the wonderful Luke Smith is here as the Destiny franchise director from just a little studio called Bungie. Now, this particular woman is a woman who I've admired for many, many years. She is, of course, SIOBHAN REDDY. She is the co-founder and studio director of Medium Molecule. And finally, a man that I can't believe I even need to juice in this room, but I will do it anyway. And he's promised me he's not going to fall asleep. It is Shuhei Yoshida, who is the president of Sony Interactive Entertainment Worldwide Studios. And now I'm so nervous, my legs are shaking, so I'm going to sit down. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
This is really wholesome, isn't
Hello.
it? You can relax. It's not. We're going to have a nice, fun day. All right, to finish it all off. Now, I've sort of broken it down into sort of different categories, areas we really want to explore, but starting with the idea that everyone can play games, which of course is our theme. We're really excited by the showcase. It had a lovely variety of something for everyone. Beautiful indies, great VR, PlayLink, and of course, knocking out the park with some AAA as well, first and third party. But Yoshida-san, please tell me, where has this decision come from to create such a variety of titles for PlayStation?
Well, lots of creative people working on games come up with, amazing concepts. So we try to accommodate, the developers' passion and ideas as much as possible. And sometimes we look at all the games in development, and when we have some, important new initiatives, trying to reach new audience or trying to bring out new technology. We discuss with studios and what they can do, and what kind of directions the games in development can take. But pretty much it's a bottom-up process, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So things are being done. Somewhere in the
lots of things are being
chain.
done. Yeah.
That's what we like. We're glad things are being done.
Things are being done.
Now, we have seen some new PlayLink titles announced in the showcase. But Liz, I'd love it if you could tell me a little bit more specifically about the creation for PlayLink.
Of Erica.
Pardon?
Of Erica.
Of Erica. Well, of Erica, of just PlayLink.
Sure.
But Erica did look fantastic.
Yeah, so London Studio has, I'd say, a long history of collaboration and working with emerging technologies, and Erica really was a perfect fit for us in that. So the Flavorworks team is working in a space where they're really pushing what's possible in live action. And it just fits really well in PlayLink. So you're able to interact with a live-action world in a way that you never could before by using your touch screen on your smartphone. And you can, for example, open a desk drawer in what is a film, basically. Like, you can really interact with the world. And when you see what they're doing, it sort of breaks your brain a little bit. Like, how did they do that, So it's pretty incredible.
Do you have those moments in the studio where, you come on, it's like, I'm going to show you what we're working on now, and you just sit there and you're like, this is...
Oh, yeah, I love watching people interact with it. They just can't believe it. Like, sometimes when you're working, when you're showing it internally, people will say, how do they actually do that? It's amazing.
I've never studio secrets. No one's allowed to know. Now, we've come a really long way from the launch of the original PlayStation. SIOBHAN, do you feel like there's even a typical gamer anymore?
with the millions and millions of PlayStations out in the world that people are using, I just don't think that's possible. I mean, there's, what, 60 million plus? Yeah. So, I mean, that in itself means there is no typical gamer. Definitely gone are the days when I think it was perceived that it was sort of 15 to 35-year-old men. I think that sort of blasted through, which is great. And certainly now we just see such a range of games. I mean, today's press conference, which is amazing, huge congratulations to all the teams. You just saw such a huge range of games from the indies, the AAAs, and that just shows, like, the content is so diverse, it means the audience is also diverse.
That's marvellous. By the way, if anyone does want to jump in on anything, even if I direct questions at people, you're more than welcome to have your input. Now, we know that gaming is as ubiquitous as TV and movies, but does that sort of create a challenge when you're making games? Like, how do you appeal to both the masses and the traditional gamers? Like, what do you consider? Simon, I'm going to start with you, and then I will bounce it over to Luke as well.
Well, I think what we do at Supermassive with a lot of our storytelling, and then we have action games as well, and we've done a number of different genres, is we try and pick our primary target and then work out ways that we can make it accessible and expand it to more people. So we've got titles like Bravo Team, which comes across as, it's an action, it's shooter in VR, but then we use things like the aim controller to make it really accessible so that you don't have to be a core gamer to pick it up. Anyone, once they put the headset on, it's like, great, I understand that. Impatient, which is our VR storytelling, we use the move controllers so you can get to use those to really interact with the world. So we give you hands and things like that. And obviously we've been lucky enough to build a Playlink title as well, which opens up storytelling. So actually how we can deliver storytelling with lots of people joining in and dipping out and being involved in that and creating a story.
I love the idea of the aim controller. Sorry to interrupt, but to me, obviously, I see the aim controller, I think that just looks cool. But it's so interesting to hear from you that actually it's not about it just looking cool. We took that and we ran with this idea that it also made the game accessible. And I think that's what this panel is really trying to show, is there's so much, even as a gamer myself, I didn't necessarily think about, but it's still really important. And now, Luke, what about you? What's it like trying to create for this audience?
I think for us at Bungie, it starts in a bunch of ways with world building. And I don't necessarily mean that in terms of, we're going to go to Mars or Venus. I mean that in terms of creating a place that's a world you want to be a part of. And so, like, Destiny's visual aesthetic is about being welcoming. We try to have as many different types of characters, different types of heroes that you can relate to. You can see, hopefully, a little bit of yourself in some character in our game, or a little bit of your aspirational self. So we sort of start there with something like Destiny. And of course, over the course of development, you get to the place where you're looking at the specific mechanics of bringing new people in. And so one part of that, I think, is about the relatable story, a premise that you can sort of, find some, hopefully find some resonance in. And then on the back part of our development, there's the sort of UR and accessibility layers where we're looking at a ton of data. We bring people in all the time to check out the game and see, oh my gosh, like they're falling down at this part, or in the Taken King, there's a phalanx who like knocks you off the ledge, like it's killing some high percentage of players. Are we gonna remove that? And we didn't. But the sometimes we don't listen. But that, it's sort of like, I don't want to say like a three-pronged approach, but those are like three of the layers that we're looking at when we think about building a world that players want to be a part of.
It's very interesting to hear that you're constantly getting people in, and I imagine that's something you all do, because you obviously, as developers, you have an idea of what you're going for, but being able to take that step back and go, actually, let's get the people who are after in. What's that like when they come in and maybe they agree with you, maybe they disagree? So
we have. There's a metric that's like, it's a horrible metric, and it's called a fun score. Like, there's actually a thing where on every activity, it's like, how fun was the activity? And some of the designers will compare fun scores. And we had a mission in Destiny 2 that rated extremely low on fun. Right? It was this mission where you're in third person and like walking slowly, and you don't really get to kill a lot of stuff. Rates really low on fun. But everyone universally said we wish it was longer. And so like you're looking at that and you're saying, well, of course it's not fun to lose your powers. Like, well, that's not going to be the mission that's super fun. But people were asking for it to be longer. And so we get to the place where, like the data has a bunch of different ways to look at it. And that's one of the things that I think is really important to us at Bungie, is looking at data from different directions.
Yeah, we've had the same, actually really similar experience of like how you manage like how you read data. We had the same kind of thing where it was a level that people felt was, this was actually in the LBP2 days, felt was really hard, was also rated their most fun. And so getting people in, there's nothing like it. I read a quote recently which I loved, which was basically a Stephen King quote where he was saying he writes based on his own in his room for a really long time, and then there comes a point where he has to open the door and allow other people in to read it. And I was like, that resonates with me so much, because there's always a point in a project where you're like, right, okay, it is now time to open this out to your community, get a bit of feedback, and it's a really, really exciting moment. So yeah.
That's incredible. I'm glad to hear that it's an exciting moment and not a fearful moment, because that means you just want to share these projects. Now, moving on then, Liz, what learnings do you find that you can take from things like the success of TV and films, especially with something like Netflix, which as a service caters to everybody, but even with their own creative stuff, and then bringing in third party on top of that?
Yeah. So I think what TV and film can teach us is that we all love amazing stories, and especially stories that really make us feel something. And I think one of the ways that film and TV are able to do that is sort of live action and being able to read, the human face. Like, what's more expressive than a face? And I think that's really, really powerful. And I think one of the things that's interesting about Erica is that the player really needs to read the environment and read the scene and read the people in it to decide sort of who to trust and what they believe about the world. And I think sometimes in games we're making decisions based on goals or information, but in Erica it's a lot more internal, and you're sort of making judgments around what you're reading in the people in the scene and what you think is really going on.
That just sounds incredible. Anybody else, taken any learnings from watching TV and film and the success of sort of Netflix?
Yeah, we take a huge amount of, obviously, something like Until Dawn, which may have taken a small amount of inspiration from horror and cinematic.
I would never have guessed.
There was one or two films we'd watched on the way building that, but yeah, one of the areas we spend a lot of time in and investing in is learning how the cinematic language works and how then we can apply that to our storytelling, and especially with what we're doing similar from what I think I saw in Erica with branching and giving the player choices and allowing people to create their own stories. Again, something in the Impatient where we're going to put you as the center of the story. So now suddenly you're not just playing a character, but it's actually you in VR and you're working your way through this story.
I guess it's really exciting for us as a medium because we can give people the option to develop their own story rather than just following necessarily a story set by them, which was where, arguably TV and film are limited, and we're not.
Exactly.
Very exciting.
And I think if you look at film sort of drives your emotions. It elicits responses in us. But what's different about these sorts of experiences is that your emotions and how you're reading things actually influence the experience itself, so it sort of turns it on its head.
And you must be having so much fun with that in Erica, just like, if we do this to them, maybe it'll sort of maybe push you in this direction, but really they could go, you must just sit at the studio and just want to manipulate people's emotions. It's very evil. Now, sort of moving on then to the idea of making games accessible, but also including diversity as well. I mean, it's clear games are taking really big steps towards diversity. We still have work to do, and I'm sure over the next couple of years we're going to see some more incredible movements. But we've had fantastic characters come out, strong female characters. Aloy, Nadine and Chloe, quite frankly, I'm sorry, Sam and Nathan, they were the ultimate for me. Uncharted team was Nadine and Chloe. And even with characters like Billy, exploring different genders and sexualities, we really have done a lot of work. But really, what is the ambition to bringing people in? Like, where do you look at it and go, right, well, we're going to have this group today or that group? Do you segregate? Do you go, I want this group today and this game's for them? Who would like to go first? Luke?
Wow, I got the heady one.
It's all right, you
like,
don't
what about
have to.
Another UR
you
question?
Have like one of those no, it's like Miss Congeniality, like have a sip of water and count to 3 before you answer.
No, I'll just make a joke, and then while I'm making the joke, I'll think about what I'm going to say.
That sounds great.
No, I think for us, And I think Destiny has certainly tried to do this. You know, you'll have so many different voices and different types of characters talking to you, and they represent all walks of life. But for us, a bunch of this starts with like creating a palette of characters that's inclusive and welcoming, and their voices that you want to hear from. Like we have so much, mission dialogue in our game, and you're meeting these characters, and you're like doing errands for them, and all kinds of stuff. We want those characters to sort of pull you in, and I think that at times, I think we've done an okay job of this, but I don't think we've nearly gotten to the place that we need to. And we have like when I look at Destiny, I just see huge opportunities for what we should be doing, because we have a game that is we want it to be really welcoming for people, and characters in many ways are like the handles that you grab onto to get into a world, and that's a huge opportunity for us.
And I think that was one of the things. Like you guys do put effort into that. Like when we were talking about Emmy earlier, like. Your design process is very much about making sure that you are talking directly, building your community, and it's an inclusive and positive place.
Yep.
We love Emmy.
Even hearing
Stop it. She's not available.
But hearing you say that you still see that opportunity, that excites me.
Yeah.
Because as developers, you still seek it, and you still look for it to see what you can do next. And to me, that
we're not done.
I hope not. I really hope not.
Yeah.
Now, Siobhan, the games over at Media Molecule really transcend all audiences. You guys create beautiful games that really everyone can pick up and enjoy. Does that have a different set of challenges then?
I mean, we very much come from the school of like making the game so when Shu was earlier saying about the ground up process is real, and that basically means that it sort of comes very much from the people within the studio.
Well, there are lots of happy people working in the Molecule.
Yes, there are.
Where do you find all these happy people?
From the game.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have a very, it's brilliant. We have a very, very, very great studio and very good relationship with, with you guys for helping us sort of through the various projects that we've had. But one of the things that's been really great about that is this ground-up approach, and I think like all game developers will recognize that term. It basically means you sort of start with ideas or technology or world building or something, and you sort of give things a go, you have a bit of a jam, and from that the ideas form. And so the only ideas that could form for us are the ones of the people within the studio, and that's why diversity has actually been really important to us. And diversity is not one type of diversity, it is diversity as a whole for me, and for us. And we make creative games, and our games, therefore have to... we want to have a community of makers in the studio so that we're making a game for a community of makers. So it's sort of what you see on the outside is kind of what's going on in the inside. And so that's sort of how we approach it. We approach it from very much, and I think all games teams are the same. Like the team is very reflective of the game that is made, very like music or probably TV or any art form really. So that's why it's important to us. Yeah,
it's absolutely incredible. Now, what do you think sort of needs to happen next? What are the next steps in pushing this diversity forward then?
Well, I mean, there's been so many great steps. I think acknowledging that it is important is a really important step. It's great that we're having this panel talking about it, so thanks for organising that. But I think that that's one thing. One of the reasons why that's really important is that you can sort of see that definitely representation is important, and to increase the numbers of women within the industry, which has been I've been a big advocate for over the last few years. One of the things there is women seeing women, young girls seeing women, changing some of the patterns of little girls being put off technology by the time they're 8. And some of that all comes from us, like making sure that people know it is a career for them, it is for them, games are for them. And so, for us at Media Molecule, I can really talk about is what we've been doing there. We're open to school groups, we have school groups come through, we've looked at how we do our hiring, we opened up an intern program to bring in some interns, and we've been really looking and focusing on our numbers to just sort of increase, just to figure out like where we needed to pay attention, because what we definitely discovered was there being more representation externally meant we got more CVs, it meant we got more school interest, we got different press, we got just different kind of interest, and that in itself has brought a different community of people to us. So it's a very big work in progress. There's the next sort of steps are to continue, and I think to find ways to reach broader audiences and like reach, through teaching and through the schools and education, and make sure that, and with Dreams we have a great opportunity.
Next step is finishing Dreams.
Finishing Dreams, yes, that's correct. Yes.
Shu just bringing it back there, just so she doesn't forget.
Just getting carried away.
Yeah. This is exactly what you're doing after this panel. Liz and Simon, anything you would like to add about the idea of how we push the diversity?
I think it's also interesting to look at it from the other side, which is sort of, as we broaden the definition of what a game actually is, that's going to sort of open things up and create more diversity within the content as well.
It's very interesting. They do say, mobile gaming is, really does skew what you'd call the stats about who is a gamer. So obviously, when you're opening up PlayLink, are you completely changing the playing field?
And I love when you ask people, are you a gamer? And all the people who play those mobile games say no.
Right.
But it's a mindset, and it's words. And I think that as the definition of a game broadens a bit, I think that will change.
Very much so.
Yeah, no, I think we often talk about the negative cycles in the industries and things like that, but there's some really positive cycles happening at the moment. I'm sitting here for the first time. I've been in the industry quite a long time, but to have a panel that's equally representative, male and female, I think shows how far we've come. And some fantastic creators, Liz and SIOBHAN, who I've known for many years and admired her and her company's work. But as we create broader games that are more appealing, that are broader stories that deal with more difficult subjects and things like that will create more diversity. And as SIOBHAN was saying, that once we create that diversity and that interest, that then leads to more and more people wanting to come and be creators, creative, and getting involved in the industry, which is how we will succeed.
It's going to be very, very exciting as we move into the future. Now, gaming communities are no longer just online. People get together, they want to meet each other. There's cosplay, fan art, even fan fiction. Now, Luke, I have to admit, Destiny probably encapsulates this, because you have the people that play, but even outside of that, I've been to Destiny in the pub meets where I've just met other players. The cosplay is out of this world. The art, whether it be audio or even visual art that they create based off the game, is incredible. Can anyone get involved, in a community like Destiny, or is it really, it is for traditional only?
We hope that it becomes not just for traditional gamers. When you talked about fan fiction, I started to smirk because we have this 1 week period every year at Bungie where we shut the studio down and we do an event called Carnival, where we're not doing any work on any project that we're shipping, and everyone gets to break off into small teams and do kind of whatever they want, just jam for a year. And one of the teams this year made a fan fiction game about the characters of the world falling in love.
Yes.
And so even within our own studio, at Halloween, we have events costume parties where people dress up like characters from Metal Gear or characters from Destiny. When we're sitting down to create a character, our artists are so rigorous about making sure that even the buttons on a character are forgeable. Someone will be able to spend time and craft this. We think it's one of the highest compliments someone can give our games if they've chosen to spend their free time constructing some incredible costume. It's one of the greatest compliments that someone can give you about how they love their game. And we've had all kinds of activities around Bellevue in Seattle, different Guardian meetups. And I think one of those things is really about the community that our community team tries to foster, which is, we want a place that's welcoming, and a place that, we want Destiny to be a game that you can go to and have fun with friends, or like we say internally, people who could become your friends. And we try to present environments to players where they can sort of play alone, but play alone together. And so it's about creating that world where you just might incidentally bump into someone while you're doing a public event, slaying some Cabal characters, and for 2 minutes you're friends with this person because you're shoulder to shoulder, and then you go your separate ways. And to see the community that spawned out of that, even our own community leaders have their own events that they set up and run that create these giant Destiny conventions. That's all just community. It's amazing. And so all of that to us on the development side, it's super humbling.
That's absolutely amazing. Now, moving on then very quickly to innovation, tech, and actually looking to the future, because that's really what all of you are doing, constantly looking to the future and striving to make the best with your technology. But let's talk about encouraging people to play then. So the PS4 is incredibly advanced. The DualShock 4 for me is probably the most comfortable controller I've ever played with. It's easily my favorite controller. But that is a barrier to entry for some people. You know, my dad, for example, if I gave him a DualShock 4, would not know what to do, especially if I told him to press R3. That would just be, he'd be looking all over for the R3 button. No, can't do that. But smartphones, now my dad, God bless him, can work a smartphone, all right? And he's already messaged me today to ask if where I'd put something. Not to say congratulations, but I can't find it. Now, Liz, I'm going to go because of Erica. We want to talk about that. Talk about this idea of taking the barrier away, and everyone can use a smartphone.
Yeah,
what's that like?
It's huge. PlayLink enabling a player to control a game with a smartphone is massive. Like, it definitely opens doors to players like your dad who would look at a DS4 and just put it right back down, right? So I think that's massive. I think also live action is another barrier that can be overcome, in that the audience that we're talking about who might not play games, well, when they're watching movies and TV, they're not watching animated content, right? They're watching live action shows and movies. And so it's sort of bringing things a little bit closer to home for them. So I think those are two barriers that we're definitely focused on.
That's incredible. Now, Simon, Supermassive Studio, you've covered it all. I mean, you've done the home console, you've done VR, I mean, you're working on PlayLink. What opportunities do these technologies bring to you as a studio?
And I think it is that opportunity to whether it's broaden the audience or excite the audience or create just amazing experiences. I mean, I think talking about our experience in VR, you know, VR naturally lends itself to more intuitive experiences. You know, once someone's put the headset on, you want to provide something that feels real. I mentioned earlier on about the idea of, in one of our titles, you know, really bringing you into the story. And so, you know, by using the technology such as Move, we can then create this representation of you. So you look down, so you start off the game by selecting whether you're male or female, and then you can adjust some other settings so that when you look down, it's as close as we possibly can with the technology to feeling like I'm in the game, you know, driving that level of immersion. And so then when I'm controlling it, and I can reach out and I can pick things up and I can throw things from hand to hand and I can interact with everything in the game world, you know, that's allowing us to create immersion that we've never been able to before, you know, when we were building sort of just traditional TV-based games. And so it's that sort of tech that's allowing that. And then, you know, the other things that are allowing us to broaden our audiences, you know, the PlayLink, we've just done Hidden Agenda, coming out soon in Europe, you know, which is it's an adult story, so it's you know, it's still a mature piece of content, but using the PlayLink means that actually, you know, that can broaden that audience. You can have your friends round and, you know, work your way through that story.
Say it, the molecule. I mean, talking about technology and exploring options.
Yeah, I mean, we love building on ideas on new tech. I mean, VR we're really excited about, and I think I just kind of wanted to echo some of the VR comments of like the broadening nature of that is I've just never had so many of our visitors come into the house and be non-gamers who are like, I need to have another go of the thing. Give me another go. And I think that like there's one of those things where you watch that and observe like what is the experience that people are after, and what they're after is a sort of sense of immersion and a sense of escapism and a sense of feeling really like they are somewhere, and it delivers on that so perfectly. Yeah, we can't wait to play with all of it, really.
Lots of these new technologies, you know, the VR or, you know, tools to create something, Unity or, you know, games like Dreams are really broadening the people to learn to create something, and it can be anyone. Anyone, anywhere.
That's right, because I think VR as well has that great thing of it's all about your senses. So you're using your senses in a completely different way, and that's what so much of the new tech was really exciting. That, you know, you're just using your eyes and your sense of space, and yeah, it's very, very cool.
Yoshida-san, what is it like then, as Worldwide Studios, being able to go to these studios and present them with this new technology? What's it like then seeing when they're creative with it? How does it feel?
Actually, the beginning of the project of the PSVR was, I was being presented by the studio people putting together like a handmade prototype of on PS3 days. And so they are like showing me, in the future, this can be real project. We should do this. We should do this, and that spread like wildfire, across different studios, and that's how the company decided to make it a real project. So. It's always fun to present new things, but we have so many creative people in the Worldwide Studio organization. They are coming up with something totally interesting all the time.
Now, Luke, what's it like somewhere like Bungie then? Because you could more traditional gaming, maybe, but clearly a team of very creative people who obviously want to devour innovation. What's that like at Bungie?
I think for us it is, because as you're saying traditional, I'm going to interpret that basically as like controller in hand.
And I think that's the right way to do it.
It's accepting, one part of it is it's accepting that there is an initial barrier to entry for being able to master moving through 3D space, and that's like learning a new language. Then when we sit down to think about how we want to innovate in our games, I think a lot of it comes down to what is the specific game we're trying to make, and so how are we going to construct something from the earliest phases when we start a project that the feature set is appropriate to the high-level product design. So when you look at something like Destiny, we want to extol the virtues of bringing people together, creating new systems like clans, like doing experiments like guided games, which I think I use the word experiment really deliberately because it's something we're trying as a new way of bringing players together, and we're finding like it sort of works here and it doesn't work here, and we're going to improve that. It's about looking at our tech innovations in terms of what's the experience we want to bring players that brings them together in a game like Destiny. And so I think that's where we try to push, and we're gonna continue to try to push going forward.
Amazing. Right, guys, thank you very much. That is the questions that I have. You know what, I'll do one more just to round it off before we have some audience questions. If we start with you yourself, Simon, move on. One thing, be a game, an innovation, a movement, something that you're excited about for gaming in the next 12 months.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm really interesting to take a step back because we've been really heads down, finishing a bunch of titles, and so take a step back and look at what everyone else is going to do. So I think we started to see some really interesting insights right there, so we're part of the Guildford Games community, and so finished dreams. So really excited in that. So yeah, so maybe for me personally, it's taking a step back, see what other people are innovating, and see what they've been doing for the last year.
That's a very good answer. Well done. Cool. You handled that very well. Sorry about that. But Liz, you're going to be next. You've had time to think now.
Okay, thanks. I would say probably the convergence of film and games. I think it's just a really interesting space, and especially with this sort of newer audience in mind. I'm working on a few different things at London Studio where honestly we kind of don't know what to call these things because they're not exactly games, they're definitely not films, they're experiences. What does that mean? Like there's really new stuff coming, and it's really exciting. And for people who, which I think is everyone, who really love stories and like amazing stories, it's just a really fun playground.
I'm going to give it totally true, but probably disappointing to some folks, where the answer, there's an answer about like I'm excited for what we're doing for Destiny, but there's like a lot of dramatic irony because I know what we're doing for that. But like Luke the gamer, like my best friend on the planet is the creative director on the Spider-Man game, and so I'm like so excited to play this thing that Brian's been working on. Like every time I see it, I get like a little emotional because like it's like my boy, and I'm seriously like he's like my best friend on the planet. And I'm so excited for him.
Proud for him.
Whenever that thing's going to be done, Brian and Insomniac, hurry up because I'm waiting. And like seriously, like I can't wait. I every time I see it, I get super excited.
That's so sweet.
It's my boy.
I mean, I know this is probably bad, but I'm actually just really excited about finishing dreams. But actually, what I'm really, really excited about is like the dream for a really long time has been to get what we've been working on out again and out into the community and see what people are going to make with it. we're like internally already making really cool stuff with her. I have made 2 games in the last couple of weeks, just FYI. And I feel like it's just going to be a creative explosion. And I love the idea that games becomes more something that we just all do as hobbies, as well as do as a job. And so I just can't wait for us to actually start that journey and get it out to our community, because we love our community. And,
I can't wait to see what your community come up with, because I think it's one of the most creative communities I've ever stepped foot into. Is what Medium Molecule, beautiful stuff.
It's going to be awesome. Well, hopefully.
Well, we've seen so many great games being presented today in pre-show and show that's coming out within next 12 months. It's amazing. The last 12 months was amazing. Big games, great games, creative games, VR titles. And the next 12 months seems even, bigger, better, more interesting. Yeah, so to see, people's creativity, using tools like, Dreams, or, developers making use of VR tech, something, totally new and exciting that we haven't seen yet.
Thank you.
Can we have a show of hands? Who else is really excited about finishing Dreams? There we go. Look, it's everyone.
Now, there is a little bit of time left. We are going to take some show floor questions. If you'd like to ask our panel a question, word of warning, you do have to try and keep it on topic. You cannot ask Luke about your RNG in Destiny. That is not what we're here for. But if you'd like to ask these guys, they are the experts on the idea of audience broadening and gaming being for everyone. Put your hand up. There are roaming mics. The mic will come to you. Please do this. Otherwise, I have to try and drag this out for 5 minutes and 26 seconds. Yeah, we've got some people down the front. I think your hand was first, if that's right. Right, someone's coming up on the side with a microphone.
Does it work?
Yep, I think we're good.
Okay. With gaming coming to more and more houses and millions upon millions of consoles being available to people, I think we have this growing number of gamers that are disabled and don't have the full physical capacity to play games. How do you bring those AAA experiences to those players? How do you enable them to participate in that great culture of gaming?
It's an incredible question, actually. Who would like to start?
There are lots of accessibility features in Destiny that I'm pretty impressed.
Yeah, a place where I appreciate the compliment. We haven't hit our potential here. If we actually get letters from fans, not regularly, but enough where they've had an injury and they've lost the ability to use one of their hands or something equivalent to that. It makes playing a twin stick shooter really hard. And I'm not going to sit here and promise that it's something that we're going to fix, but we talk about it a lot in terms of it's like these barriers to bringing people into the world. And if there are we've taken some steps, but not enough in our case.
And there are some incredible, even in the UK alone, charities that work really hard to enable gamers of all abilities to be able to play games. I'm sure you're all aware of Special Effect, and their work is incredible.
Yeah, amazing, absolutely amazing.
But yeah, I think it's something that you guys obviously clearly think about. What's it like then when you're working with more innovative, brand new technology? So technology that's only even just coming out now. With a DualShock, yes, the PlayStation 4 has been out a while, and we are used to working with it and what it's capable of. But then how do you bring a new piece of technology that you're only just learning how to use to people with disabilities?
Yeah, I think what Lou was saying is it's something that we perhaps need to think more about and try harder with as game creators and listen a bit. We talked earlier about listening to audiences, and so maybe that's a sector that we need to try and do that. But
and I think working with people like Special Effect is really important. Sort of educating ourselves on what things that we can do and should be doing, talking to our community, finding out what's important. That where do we begin? Where do we start? How do we work through? So it's definitely something that we need to, as an industry, make sure we're doing.
And we've been learning that making games accessible to those people who have, disability. Actually, these features makes games accessible to everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's a good thing for, games as well in general to make games better.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's a really good question. Thank you very much. We do have time for probably one more, maybe two if we're quite lucky. Hands up. There's a gentleman right down the front here.
I kind of have a question that is a little bit a double question. I don't know. I imagine that everyone in the panel knows the game designer Bright Code and his conference in GDC, Video Games Are Boring. That is a conference very well known. And I want to ask you if you think she has an idea for gaming that is necessary to include in the conversation, but not only in the conversation, in the creation, people that are not playing. His friends, his grandmother, his father that don't play, to create games that allow these people to be included. Not only, to aim for what cinema does, but to include these people that doesn't play. So I want to know about that, about the opinion of the panel. And also, if you think that we as adults, we need to introduce more gaming in our growing up and in our culture as children have, because it's very difficult to take serious games if you are not taking games into your adult life as childs do. So it's always been a barrier to compare it to other arts.
I mean, I think with Bree's work, I love Bree, but I mean, one of the things that I really liked about one of her recent articles that she was talking about was just this sort of tend and befriend idea. And I think really the discussion that is interesting for all of us as games makers is one of what are the different types of experiences that we can create and offer. And just because it hasn't been done before doesn't mean it shouldn't be done. There's plenty, like the most brilliant thing about the games industry is that it's the best industry in the world. And we can literally make up anything, and we can create worlds, and we can create characters, and we can create experiences, and we've got amazing technology where the fusion, where all of these things come together. And so what I find really inspiring about some of the work that she's done has been more about just think about it. Just think about the different types of emotions you can elicit. Think about the different types of things you can get racing around your brain. And I mean, I certainly think within the world of creative gaming, and in fact, all of us here on the panel, I think are all trying to do something slightly different, so that we're not just continuously making the same thing over and over again. In fact, that's what all of us are trying not to do. We're trying to make new experiences for people and give them something new to grasp onto, so that does bring, different audiences in. And gamers can become, gamers at 65. My mum became a gamer at 65. Now she's hardcore.
Would anyone else like to add anything? Because this will be our final question. So any other thoughts or feelings? Well, Siobhan, you just wrapped it up perfectly, maybe.
Yeah. Check out the industry. It's so good. It's so great. It's awesome.
It makes doing this very easy when you're incredibly passionate about the industry. Yeah. Well, there you go. That is all we've got time for. I really hope maybe some of you here might actually explore the idea of introducing family and friends to titles like PlayLink, maybe this Christmas, because we have got them coming out before Christmas. Maybe you're finally going to put those smartphones in their hands, sit mum and dad down and be like, we're going to play a game together, and I bet you're going to enjoy it. So that's what you guys are working on. Can't wait. Really, thank you all for your time. I hope that you've all learned something, grown in a way, taken something away from this, because these are 5 of the most incredible people in our industry right now who are pushing the PlayStation 4 and the technologies it offers further than anyone else. I can't thank you enough for being here. I feel so honored to be here with all of you. It really has been fantastic. So guys, please, a round of applause for our panel. Thank you very, very much. And I hope you've enjoyed it.
PS4 for the players.